I ran a chemistry lab. Let me tell you exactly what that means. They gave me a university lab and told me to find something new. No direction, no deadline, just equipment and silence. The lab had been empty for 2 years. The previous researcher left without filing a final report. Nobody asked why. There were 17 unlabeled compounds in the back cabinet. Someone had organized them by size. That was all the documentation left. I started combining them with no hypothesis, pure curiosity, the most dangerous state any chemist can exist in. Week 2. The temperature readings stopped making sense. The reactions were doing things the literature said were impossible. The colors were wrong, the smell was wrong, everything about it was wrong. I kept going because wrong results are still results. Week 4. The crystals appeared for the first time. White, perfectly uniform, completely unrequested. I stared at them for an hour. The purity reading came back at 99.6%. That number doesn't come from accident. That number comes from something that wants to exist. 0 matches in any published database. The molecule on my screen didn't officially exist anywhere in the scientific record. I ran the toxicology profile myself at 2 a.m. The numbers came back, and I sat with them and didn't move for a very long time. 1 gram over the threshold. That was the entire margin between pain relief and something that stops a human heart permanently. I wrote the lethal dose in the journal, closed it, opened it again, read the number 2 more times. The number didn't change. I had accidentally built the most precisely dangerous compound I had ever encountered in 11 years of chemistry, completely by accident. I decided to stop. Wrote it in the journal, packed the samples into the sealed case, put it in the back cabinet and locked it. That decision lasted 4 days. On the 5th morning, my phone rang, and everything I had decided became completely irrelevant. They knew the compound name, the exact synthesis route, things written only in one journal, locked in one cabinet in one room. They told me where my daughter sat that morning, her teacher's name, the color of her lunchbox, details nobody should have had. I understood they had been watching the lab, watching the family, watching everything for longer than I had been working. My wife didn't come home that evening. My son didn't answer his phone. I called the school. She had left at the normal time. The second call came at midnight. They put my wife on for exactly 3 seconds. 3 seconds was enough to understand everything. The instructions were simple. Return to the lab, continue the synthesis, scale up production tenfold, ask nothing, say nothing to anyone. I opened the case I had locked 4 days ago, unlatched it, looked at what was inside, put on my gloves and continued. 2 men stood outside the lab every day from that morning. They weren't university staff. They didn't pretend to be anything. New industrial equipment arrived the next morning. Refrigerated storage, a centrifuge worth more than my salary for 3 years. 1 phone call per week to confirm they were alive. 30 seconds. Same voice, same script. 30 seconds and then the line cut. Every morning I arrived to find a photograph of my family on the bench. Same photo. Never mentioned, never explained, always there. The synthesis scaled exactly as the mathematics predicted. Each batch 3 times the previous. The work became mechanical and fast. Week 9, I started keeping a second journal. Not for the science, against them. Every batch weight, every face, every delivery time. I memorized every face that entered, their schedule, their habits, who they reported to, when they made their calls. The boss visited once in 3 months. He stood in the doorway for 40 seconds, looked at me, said nothing. Then he left. Month 4. I started reading about things I never studied. Industrial accidents, causes of explosions. Not as a terrorist, as a chemist. University libraries keep books nobody has opened in 20 years. That's exactly where the most honest chemistry lives. Blast mathematics is different from synthesis mathematics. The principle is identical. Precision, control, 1 gram in the wrong place. The guards ordered everything I requested. They didn't understand chemistry. They only knew production had to continue. Some items I underlined in pencil. Not because they were more important, because pencil can be erased. Most of it goes on the shelf. Some of it goes under the bench. Guards see identical boxes. They don't count individual vials. First test, minimum quantity. The result matched the calculation to within 8%. For my purposes, that was enough. I had never been inside that building, but I had described it to the guards enough times to draw the floor plan from memory. There is a moment when you stop deciding and simply start preparing. I can't tell you exactly when it happened, but it happened. Second test, larger scale. The mark on the metal exactly where I calculated. 2% deviation, acceptable. Month 5. I requested a direct meeting with leadership. Framed it as a production update requiring senior technical approval. They confirmed the family would be present at the meeting location, a gesture of good faith for exceeding production targets. I assembled it at home, not in the lab. The same hands, the same precision, a different purpose. Device inside the production report binder. I checked the weight against the original report 3 times. Same scale, same sound. Morning of the meeting. I read the first journal from beginning to end. Every entry, every mistake, every moment I didn't stop myself. I left the lab at 6. The guards waved me out exactly as they had every evening for 5 months. Routine is a door that stays open. The building was 3 kilometers from the university. Private. 3 floors. I had studied the layout from photographs for 2 weeks. They searched me at the entrance. Professional and thorough. They found the binder and the pin. Nothing else existed for them. My family was in a side room off the corridor. I saw them to the doorway for 2 seconds. Alive. Unharmed. That was enough. 14 people in the meeting room. The boss at the head of the table. I counted from the doorway before stepping inside. 14. I placed the folder exactly in the center of the table, said that the last pages contain a 5-year expansion plan, and stepped away to see my family, possibly for the last time. My wife looked at me the way she used to before all of this existed. 3 seconds. I held it and memorized every single detail. I told them to get on the floor behind the heavy cabinet, cover their ears, stay there. I checked my watch in the corridor. 40 seconds remained. I stood in the silence and counted every single one of them. I walked the corridor toward the meeting room. 30 seconds, 25, 20, steps even. Nothing changed on my face. I stopped at the door. Through it, I could hear them already flipping through the binder. I gave them 2 more seconds. Then I opened it. The explosion that put an end to thousands of deaths from overdoses, put an end to all the intimidation and torture, and to my suffering as well.